right,
Hello.
great. Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for being the most patient host in the world.
Hey, no, you're fine. Just welcome to the podcast. I'm sorry for rescheduling all because I just recently started school and all that, and just I get out at 2:20, and then you wanted to do at 12, so I can really do that time because I was still in
Oh,
school.
that's okay. Everybody should stay in school.
Yeah, it's not fun, but yeah, you should stay in school.
Yes.
So, where you calling from?
I am calling from Los Angeles, California.
You live there now? Still live there?
Yeah, I've lived here for 10 years, so I went to school in New York and I don't have you ever been? You ever just like even been for a visit
To Los Angeles?
to no to New York?
Yeah, I've been to the city many times. I'm
Yeah,
from
that
Jersey, so
oh, okay, yeah.
yeah, I'm right there.
So basically, yeah, I went to school at New York Film Academy out there. I lived in Hoboken, so I like took like it was like a 2.5 hour commute. Just like
Oh,
walk,
damn. Whew.
walk to the path to the like whatever 34th or something like that,
I don't know
and
the
then
streets.
yeah, it was just like it was a car, a plane, and a train kind of
Just a
commute.
lot of
So
walking, I'm guessing, right?
well, yeah, because like in Hoboken, like I could have taken the bus down, like 16 city blocks, but I just didn't want to. Like at the time, it was
Yeah.
just this is too many modes of transportation. But that I used to commute in to the city, and then I I basically was trying to decide late into my time there if I was going to stay, and I'm from Boston, so it's not like I'm not used to city,
Yeah.
but it's a very different place. It's
Yeah, of
very
course.
it's very chill. It's very
Very,
chill, and
very
it's
different.
except for if there's baseball being played, then like we'll like kill you with barbarians. I don't know
Yeah.
why, but I'm very used to the immediacy of having things in the city. So and for my career especially, I just knew that I had a couple of options. So Los Angeles really did seem to be the best place with great weather. So I've been out here, and it's a real grind. It's a
Of
real
course.
grind to be a filmmaker out here, and trying to get the big bag
Yeah, the
basically.
big money.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actively trying to get the big bag right now, and it's a lot of preparation work that just took to just get to this stage.
Yeah.
It was about 15 years of working on film from the time I went to school,
Oh,
and
shit.
and that yeah. Oh shit. Shit, are we running
That's
out of time?
Bro, no, that's almost as old as me. I'm only 16 years old, so 15 years, that's when I was 1 years old. So that's like
I
crazy.
mean, you have to think, well, in adulthood too, like, my God, not to freak you out, because you're far away from this time, but
Oh
there's a
yeah.
there's a time around your 30s, like when you turn 30, it seems like a fast forward button
Yeah.
just goes on. And it is really scary because it's just like, fuck. Like I have embraced in the past few years being like, hey, aging is a privilege, man. Like nothing
Of
is
course.
promised. Thank the fucking Lord. You
Yeah.
woke up today,
And now you be like 5 years older, you wake up, oh, I'm already 19. Like, what the fuck?
Exactly. And you can't wait, right? You can't wait when you're
Yeah.
that age. You're like, I see your McLovin banner
Yeah, right,
behind
right,
you. Yeah. So
right. Fuck, wherever it, yeah, right there.
that, yeah, you need to go like this, I
Yeah, I
think.
can't really see converted the cameras right there.
But that kind of mentality of like, yeah, like I remember feeling that way about, I'm more of the 10 things I hate about you era, but thinking about like those films and being like, yeah, like this is what matters. This is
Yeah.
chasing the person you like, having a good time and stuff, and it kind of falls away a little bit, and the real shit kind of comes in.
Yeah, so it hits you in reality when once you turn like 18 and all that, reality just smacks you right across the face. Because like when everybody says like, oh yeah, like you're lucky that you're still a kid now. Don't rush to grow up. Like I'm
Right.
taking that for granted, honestly, because like I'm already a junior now. Thinking about it,
Yeah.
I only remember like feels like yesterday I was like a freshman. So it's
True,
crazy to me.
true. You know, I'll give you some unsolicited advice too. Don't wear too many hats. You'll
I
lose
don't
your
wear hats at
hair.
all. I do not wear hats at all. I'll be honest.
Because I got, I'm trans, so I even had a full head of hair until
I
I
know.
started HRT. And I was like,
Uh,
doop de doo, everything's fine. I'm trans. I'll never lose my hair. Oh, dude, yeah, you're having peak levels of testosterone. My testosterone's just as good as a 16-year-old boy's. So all of that testosterone's running through me, right? And what happens to, big beefy gym guys? They lose all their
yeah.
fucking hair. So that's where I am. I'm
At least you
stuck
got the
in
beard
this.
though. Not gonna lie. At
Oh
least you got
yeah,
the beard.
I am like, I don't know if you like, I'm a big Red Sox fan, so like
Oh, you're the
two
Red
that
Sox.
two yeah, I know. I'm the devil, but 2016 Red Sox was like the beard team. That was their thing, was we all have beards. And so after that I was like, I could do shaved head and beard for the rest of my fucking life. Like I will take this all the way.
Yeah, of course. I have a question for you. Are you
Of
Irish?
course. I am
Are you
Irish.
Irish? I'm
You
only
knew that from my face or from my name? Just a
I
good
mean, just
guess.
assuming from your Boston, most people are Irish over there, not trying to stereotype because yeah.
True. No, true. Yeah, it's a very good place to be raised Irish Catholic. Especially like my dad's really, really religious. So he's like super into Catholicism. So yeah, I grew up between like two pubs,
Oh, two.
literally. Yeah, like that. Well, my neighborhood, Brighton, as some of your listeners might know, is very Irish pubs with like
Oh,
more multicultural than Southie, which also has a lot. But yeah, my landlord was the owner of the pub down the street.
that's
Was
good.
direct. He was an Irish guy, had an accent and everything, and yeah, we just like literally have to walk down there to get real fish and chips. Real
Oh,
like
the real
really
shit.
tasted. Yeah, exactly, really authentic. And yeah, I loved growing up there. I know that a lot of people hate us because we're good, because we're the best. It must be really hard for other people. See, this is the Boston attitude that we always come out with, and people are like, no,
Thinking
we
you're the
didn't
best
say that.
city.
We're like,
Nope, nope, nope.
anyway, the discussion is over. So thank you for agreeing with me, and I really appreciate you.
Okay.
Where are you from?
Jersey, born and raised.
Right. Okay. Yeah, you're from
Jersey.
Jersey. So
I
does
love it
this
over here.
mean right? Okay, but specifically about baseball now.
I
What does this mean? Does this mean we have a Yankee fan, a
Yankee.
Met fan?
No, we're not
Okay,
Mets. Nope.
okay,
Yankee fan.
okay. So
I probably would have give you a heart attack if I said the Mets. I'm gonna be honest.
Well, the Mets were floating along, and then the last few games they've really actually started to fall
Yeah.
away. So standings aren't that great right now, but both the teams are, they had within the last couple of years,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
shit, some real shit.
Yeah, of course.
But there was a moment where the Mets had a moment this season where they could have done something, and they fell way back. So, but the Yanks in particular, that's something where like I forgive you, I understand.
It's like I just like did something bad or something.
I got a new
Oh,
roommate
God.
like 2 weeks ago, and he walked in with a Yankees hat, and it was like a fucking fancy all-star hat from the All-Star game in Miami, which I don't know if that was this year or a couple years ago.
Uh,
It was
probably.
San Diego like 2 years ago, but I
I
couldn't
think two
remember
years
if it was
ago was, I think,
Miami.
yeah,
Yeah.
2 years ago.
And I was like, what the fuck is that?
What the fuck was that? I mean, it's nice. The hat looks nice though. Don't get me wrong.
That was so
Of course.
nice. I
It's
was
nice, but you
like,
don't like the team.
I was
That's
like,
the
the symbol on the front is wrong and it's disgusting and offensive. But most people I do find in LA, if they're wearing a Yankee cap, they don't give a fuck.
Oh yeah, no.
Like they don't know who they acquired at the trade deadline. I'm like, what do you think about Rizzo? Do you think he's gonna give the whole team COVID? I hope so.
No.
That's where I start to turn into a bad person.
So how do you pronounce your name? Is it just Johnathan?
Yeah, Johnathan. Andre is my middle name, and I go by, my full name, like as a filmmaking moniker, but in my life, most people just call me John.
I'm just gonna call you John for this whole
Yeah, that's
interview,
totally
honestly.
fine.
Because like sometimes I see the most simple names and then I like just fuck it up because they say it in the most weird way ever. I'm like, what the fuck?
Johnathan.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, I kept my the meaning of my name. It's like in terms of my birth name, like also means manly gift of God, like in translation. So Jonathan Andre also
yeah,
similarly means manly gift of God.
that's always
They
good.
knew something. They
Yeah,
knew.
at least it means something good, honestly.
Exactly, and I am.
Yeah. So John, let me ask you this: do you listen to '90s music at all?
How did you know? How did you know? Yes, I grew up in the 90s, so I listened to 90s
I love that
music
music as well.
copiously.
Oh, you like
You
House of
like
Pain? You better like House of Pain.
yeah, okay, so yeah, sure. Yes. I like House of
Sure.
Pain. I like yes. I'm very yeah. No, I'll listen. The Jam 94.5 was the Boston station at that time. So
Yeah, I don't
they
know what that is.
played it was R&B and rap,
Oh,
and
R&B.
like literally like just there was like mainly Aaliyah, Drew Hill, like all that kind of like R&B,
Yeah,
All for One. That stuff is like more my like wheelhouse, honestly. But I do have the one thing I find myself doing most now is a band that I hated at the time,
let's hear it.
like the Goo Goo Dolls. That's a very particular one. I'm like the Goo Goo Dolls. They had a song Iris.
I've never heard
Um,
that. I've
it's
never heard
it's
that.
there's another one called Slide. They're two hit wonder, right? And
Two
at
Hit
the
Wonder.
time, I was like, the Goo Goo Dolls suck, and I can't stand this, and it's an immediate shut off the radio. But now when I hear it, it's a total nostalgia feeling, and I'm
It's
like,
actually good.
I sing along with it. I know every word
You're,
somehow.
you're like,
So
oh shit, that's that song I used to fucking
that's
hate.
my jam.
Now you
Yeah,
start vibing.
exactly.
Now you start singing. You're going like 50 and like a 25. So, oh my
So I
god.
would say that you could name anything, and I'd probably be like, yeah, I'll fucks with that. But at the time, I was like, yeah, this is not really my favorite song.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the best time for Mariah and Janet. It was like the best time for them, and I'm huge fans of them, so much so that I don't even use their last names.
Yeah, I'm more of the hip hop type of guy from the '90s.
Sure, and I appreciate that. It's definitely definitely like
Yeah.
a good time, but you would have to ask my sibling. Was more of like they were the person buying the Source magazine. Just
Uh,
like two little white kids buying Source, just trying to get into it.
yeah.
But we did love it. It's just definitely at the time. I feel like production in music was a lot more of my jam. Like you could feel the bass line, it was all that kind of stuff. And I listen to music now and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like this sounds like
Oh,
the third
all the auto tune.
remix.
It's remixes,
Yeah,
auto tunes, and everything. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Are you in space or some
they
shit?
remix the people that can sing really good. I don't think they or auto tune the like Adele, but every once in a
No.
while I'm like, is it everybody else? Like, is John
Yeah.
Legend getting auto tuned? Like,
It's like I don't remember this shit. This guy's never auto tuned. Now he's what the fuck is this bullshit?
what happened to people who could sing? Which is something a friend of mine said to me in 2010, and I always
Oh,
remember it
that's
because
2010.
that's like a turning point. Yeah, but yeah, probably it was triggered by some of the those emo sounding that shit that was
My,
like really pervasive. And I'm not that I can't do because
I
I
can't
came
either.
from grunge. So yeah, like what is it like? Is it Panic at the Disco? like, you know, those guys that are nah, nah, nah,
Oh,
you
those.
know.
Oh, no, we're not gonna get started with that type of music.
That
No.
shit is just like, I just don't understand it. I don't understand how it ever got popular. So that's when I
Oh
start
no.
sounding like an
It's
old
just a
fucking
certain
man.
group of people that just fucked with that music. I don't know how. They're just them,
it's
but hey,
it's
I'm just
just
gonna leave
these
them
bad
alone.
people that
Yeah.
came in.
Yeah.
They didn't talk to us about it. But yeah, I mean, even when I was in high school, like Kurt Cobain had died years before, like when I was like just entering junior high. So that it was not something that I actively was like, I loved his music and I was mourning it. It was afterwards that older kids were sharing Nirvana with us. And that's
Mm,
when I fell in love with like Smashing Pumpkins and, you know, Stone Temple Pilots and all that kind of music was like, yes, like this is exactly like it has, you know, great 3 chord usage, the but the vocalization and everything
is
is
actually good.
out of this world.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, Kurt Cobain, I mean, he could really sing. People
I've heard of him.
sometimes he's I mean, get into Nirvana because this is a really succinct catalog. You're gonna be listening to like 4 albums, you know, that's all he was able to make before he died. And there's some like grunge screaming on it, but when he's really singing,
It's
like
actually
you're
pretty good.
and it pulls everything together in the same way that like a band like System of a Down did, you know, because they would do like and then they go like into this thing and it's like, well, he sounds like it's like the most true sort of almost prayer chanty kind of voice.
That type of.
Yeah, and it got kind of like it feeds you the lyrics in this way where you're just like you're intaking them and they're so political that
Yeah,
you know, it's a really immersive experience.
of course. So, John, why don't you introduce yourself to my audience?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, my name is Jonathan Andre Culleton, aka John. I
Yeah, we could just
am
say
a
John. I'm definitely not
um,
going to remember the last two things.
I'll call myself just a filmmaker. I'm you know, a director and a writer primarily, and I created a series called BombShell that's in distribution. It's a digital series, and I'm also the co-creator of the upcoming show Spookable, which um, is being shopped right now and is like a big project, but we're hoping that that everybody that I say Spookable this time in 2 years, and everybody's like, oh yeah, Spookable,
What type of movie is
right?
it? A horror movie, comedy?
Well, basically, like the IP right now is as a TV series, but we are shopping it as well as a feature. So your the answer to your question is yes.
Oh, all right, cool.
Either or,
Either way,
yes,
all right.
all of the above. And it's a horror comedy, so it
Oh,
actually
that's actually pretty
plays
interesting.
off, you know, Scary Movie. Have
Yeah,
you seen those?
of
So
course.
it's the same vein of humor, of very somewhat over sexualized humor, that is
That's my type of
uh
humor. That's my type of humor.
and I grew up, you know, obviously grew up as a queer person, but with American Pie was a really popular film
I
in
love
high
that fucking
school.
movie. I love that
Yeah,
shit. One of
so
my
I
favorite movies ever. Oh my
and you know,
god.
you might be interested to know, and you might not know that Chris Wheats, who co-created American Pie with his brother, you know, he wrote Rogue One. He wrote a Star Wars film 20 years after he made those movies. So
Talented.
there's a very, you know, it's hard to make that kind of comedy. It's hard to give it great story structure. People pass it off a lot, but my show Bombshell, you know, has a superhero flying penis, that's not, you know, not attached to any body. It's just
I
a
was about to say, I thought it was
cartoon.
attached. Oh,
No, a lot of people are like, is it attached? I'm like, what do you think I can get away with?
I
No,
think that's
it's
what everybody
actually
assumes. Everybody assumes
it's
that.
no, it's really cute because like the body is like the penis, but then the balls are the butt. So it makes it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes, I know
So
what you're saying.
registering it as, and then he has like stick legs and stick arms and like a little
Stickler.
cape. And like it's very like when I talk about it, right? People are like, oh no, it's like it's a penis flying around. Like, I don't want to watch that. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is like the Captain America of penises. Like he's like a cute superhero. He's very personable. And he has a lot of very funny scenes, but he also has a one really traumatic scene. And I don't know where all of that comes from, except for that I think as a trans person sometimes you find that there's a little bit of disassociation with body parts, and there's also kind of a concept called ghost penis, where trans men, just because they don't have a penis doesn't mean that they don't have one sort of in their mind. And you might relate, just even when you're approaching somebody you like or whatever, and you feel like some of your urges are guided by the penis.
Yeah.
We have that with our ghost penis. It's not like we don't have those urges. We have that, and we have a little sort of id thing that's telling us what to do. And that's like a very oversimplification, obviously, for a comedy show, but but my point being that, yeah, this is something that in concept, like, I do think that a lot of times in my work, like, cis people can often relate, because they're like, well, yeah, that is kind of like that thing that I felt with my penis, and it's just no different. And oh, okay, so trans people aren't any different.
Yeah.
Got it.
Got it.
So we're leading the horse to water. We
Yeah.
can't make him drink, but we're really trying to be like, this is some really nice water.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So yeah, my comedy often does that, and I like to make things in the vein of like American Pie and Scary Movie, because it's accessible.
Yeah.
People sometimes call it low hanging fruit, and I always say that that's the kind that everybody can pick. That's the kind everybody wants,
Yeah.
to just come along and snag that. So like, that's my invitation, to the audience, is always to be like, this is a safe space. I'm talking about bodily fluids and bodily parts, and I'm talking about sex on a level, that people don't often
Here.
hear, and in a casual way. And I do think, I'm not going to get too deep into it with somebody who's underage, but thinking about the fact that you're not taught sex education in a proper way in high school. I'm sure that the whatever
They
education
teach
you're
you
receiving,
jack shit. They teach you jack shit. I'll
yeah,
be
and then
honest.
your classmate ends up pregnant. You're like,
No,
you
well, the
know,
thing was though, for freshman year, all the freshmen they watched the sex ed video. But with
yeah.
when I was a freshman, COVID just hit in that March, so I never got the chance to watch that video. Like never once watched that video ever. So I was like,
They're like, he's fine.
yeah, he's fine. Like he understands everything. And the only time I watched it was in sixth grade, and I was just laughing my ass off the whole time. I literally got sent out of class to get a drink
You
of
weren't
water.
ready. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just laughing. I was just like immature like that, and I was just think it was like hysterical.
I mean, and that's it. Yeah, the way that they need to approach it's not an embarrassing thing, but they make it so like secretive. And I went to Catholic school, so it literally was, I didn't have any no
Yeah, now I
sex
go to public.
education at all. Yeah. And pet public is like, okay, then you're getting like whatever the state sanctioned
Yeah,
was gonna be great. And even culturally, like in America, most parents are like, yeah, you're 12, and so here's this, and this is this, and don't do this, and bye. By the time you're actually approaching any kind of
yeah,
going towards it, they're like, we already talked about that, and I said my piece. So it can be a real bad thing, for people who don't have a lot of resources and stuff. So
well, yeah,
even comedy can help with that.
yeah. It's bad nowadays because they don't know that much, and until they do something, and once they do something, they get pregnant. Oh, you're already fucked. Well, there goes your teenage life. There goes everything.
Right. Well, then you have the problem with it really is that you are then, as a child, forced to make an adult decision. That's what we try to prevent kids from doing. We try to protect people until they're 18 because we understand that we were dumb, and we didn't know, and that we wouldn't place that kind of responsibility,
Advice to all the
on
kids that are watching:
ourselves.
buy some condoms. Buy condoms. Everybody's
We're
watching.
not, and again, we're not going to tell you how to use them. You're going to look it up.
This is not the podcast that we're going to show you. We're not doing that.
Right.
This is definitely not like that.
Right. If you're already in the podcast app, you can probably put in Dr. Ruth, who I still think has information available. And she was around when I was.
She probably does.
Yeah, no, she was an older woman. Even when she's old. She might have died recently, but she lasted a while. And
but the information is still on Google.
It is, but I do think it's important how they get it, because I don't want to say to people, just go to Google. Whatever the first thing the first thing that comes up from Google, press on that and then follow the instructions. Especially thinking about queer kids. Either I wonder if even that's as simplistic as a search. You probably are going to want to go to some sort of center and get really specific. It just involves like a lot of,
especially if you search that like topic up on Google or something, it's usually like hate groups and all that they like show.
Yes,
it's unfortunate how they do that. And then like these like little kids that don't really know like better enough, they'll pick up that information and start using that hatred towards the people that are actually like that, which is sad.
Yeah. How do you feel about like in like the way that hate has kind of come about in the country in general? I've just been feeling like a little bit hopeless, but you're younger.
It's just been getting worse and worse, getting like younger and younger with the hatred. You'll be seeing 7th graders, maybe 6th graders, just like going on social media, either posting on their Instagram or Snapchat story going like, I fucking hate the gays or something like that. It's like, what, like, who like raised you like this? Like, why are you saying this? Like, what's the reason behind it? Like, can't just hate for somebody who they are. Like, you actually got to get to know the person, because they're deep down, they're actually nice people. You know what I mean?
Do you see that a lot in school? Like, do you see like anti-gay people, anti-black people in Jersey high school?
More of the anti-gays, anti-blacks, no, because in my school it's mainly all white and barely any Hispanics. It's barely diverse. It's all white.
Yeah.
Maybe out of the whole school, 5 or 6 black people. So everybody gets along with the black people because like you never see them.
What area do you live in?
Central Jersey.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you can get some pockets there too. Because I remember, we used to shoot out there. Somebody would drive us in a car out there to go shoot at a house, whatnot. And I was like, oh yeah, you could like get to New York fairly quickly.
Oh yeah, no, we can.
But it feels like another planet right here.
It does.
But
I personally like Jersey though. But going back. Going back to like the high school and everything with like the anti-gays, it's like people in my school are like scared to like come out at like my age and everything, because they're just gonna get bullied and everything. Because like I have like friends and everything that just like discriminate against those type of people and just like talk shit about it and just don't like it at all. Like there's somebody in my criminal justice class that I take. It's all about criminals and everything, about like society. And there's somebody that's gay and everybody just bashes him because the way he talks and everything.
God, that is fucked up. What the fuck? See, we're being fed a lie now, people, that are 15 years older than you or whatnot. It's like everything's gonna be better because these kids are coming up and these kids have the right head on their shoulder. And I'm like, I know some of the parents of these kids though, and they're not right in the head themselves.
Us Gen Z people are just either fucked up or just, I don't know. It's just very interesting, this generation. That's my thoughts on this generation.
It'll be interesting to see what happens when my generation gets into office, and really starts making the economic policy stuff, because we really can't fix the economy in time to fix it for ourselves. No, so really it's sort of like we're like barely gonna do it in time to help you, but we might not make it. It's just the way that it
I don't
is.
think you guys are gonna make it, I'm gonna be honest.
Probably
I don't
not.
know. Probably
It
not.
got really fucked up. In the 90s, there was a lot of money. And when I was working in high school, um, even in the mid aughts when I was working, I made
Yeah.
$18 an hour. And so,
That's like
yeah,
almost like nowadays, a little better than
yeah,
nowadays.
yeah, and it really came from a lot of there was just like a lot of good policy making. I feel like I'm about to like get on a soapbox about Clinton, but he wasn't a perfect president, but man, he left things in a great way. And then of course 9/11 happened and everything sort
Unfortunately.
of shook
So
out. We got into a really bad war. People from my generation went to that war and all this stuff. And it's just like,
yeah.
none of that needed to happen. We were in a really good place. Like
Until
it
everything
was
just
just,
unfortunately
man.
went downhill.
Yeah, and we have, hopefully like your generation, it doesn't look like my generation is anti-military enough, but I would love to see them just go, you know what? Here's half the money you got last year. I'm sorry. It's just like growing up where you get less toys for Christmas every once in a while, and you're like, this is fucked. But
Yeah.
we don't need all that fucking money. We don't
Yeah.
need all of those tanks and stuff, and it would be just great if we could just stop doing that stuff. And like, imagine if we just poured that shit into education and got everybody like out of poverty and stuff. Like, wouldn't it
Okay.
be like fucking Sesame Street,
Yeah. Text me when that happens. Holy shit. I'll be
Exactly.
waiting. I'll be waiting.
But see,
Holy
that's
fuck.
the thing, is like it's crazy because I'm talking to a 16-year-old kid who's already laughing that off. I hope that we can instill hope soon, that we can go, that's actually a thing. Like, you remember last presidential election, there was a candidate named Andrew Yang, and he
I
was
heard.
a Asian guy, and
Oh,
a
yes.
finance kind of economy minded person, and his idea was for universal basic income, which is a thing that other countries have, and that means that every month you get a check from the government. You don't have to do shit for it. You just get money from the government every
How much?
single month. Some places have it 2 grand. Some places have it just
Oh,
like
damn.
$1,500. The idea is that people in their general way that they are like as animals want to be worker bees, and people don't
Yeah.
actually rest on their laurels. Yes, some people do, but think about how many people that would catch. Single moms trying to go through school, or
That's tough.
orphaned people, people that have
Yeah.
no support system, people out of foster care. Like, you're just talking about all these hugely motivated individuals who now have the financial means to do that. And sorry about my cat, if you could hear him.
Nah, that's all right.
He's like crying.
That's all right.
But the idea that if you give people enough agency to make their dreams come true, that's exactly what they're going to do, because everybody has a ticking life clock on them. So we're all very
Yeah.
motivated, unless we're given everything, by privilege. Privilege can destroy that. But when you're talking
Oof,
about,
yeah.
yes, this is an opportunity, and I'm gonna do this, and then if you're still getting it, at a certain point, you're just building your life and you're buying things like a house and you're giving money to your kids and stuff.
Doing all
Um,
that. Yeah.
it sounds like a wishy-washy thing that politicians talk about, but really, when you put more money into families, like, just imagine if they put more money into your own family. Like, I imagine my growing up being with more money, and I'm like, oh yeah, like, I would
Oh
have
yeah.
had programs, I would have had
All that stuff.
all that kind of stuff. So I do think there's a lot of merit to, just putting more money back into the people and just being like, you know what, we fucked up. Like, we should be
Let's
giving
give
you
back.
food. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, giving back.
Free
Yeah.
chocolate milk at lunch for everybody.
So let me ask you this, John. So let's go back to maybe when you're like a child, what made you get into doing film, and who inspired you to do like filmmaking and all that and directing?
Sure. Well, I think I was like a lot of kids. I was, I think a lot of kids repeat watch stuff. So that's sort of how I started to grow up. I would say that that me and Al, my sibling, both we would describe ourselves as TV and movie obsessed at the time. Because a lot of people go like, "Oh yeah, I watched like Sound of Music over and over again." And it's like there were like 12 films like that where we were like,
Yeah.
there was like an old Disney film about horse acrobats, which is apparently where you're in the circus and you do like tricks on the horse.
What?
There's this old film and we watched it over and over again. It's like still highly influences me whenever I make a film. So I grew up like that, being obsessed. Um, you know, even like when Jurassic Park came out, my parents went on a date to it, and I was like,
I want to go.
so I was really young, and I was like, please, like this is
Like,
like seems like a really important film. It's so important to me, and they were like, now I had to go when The Lost World came out like 4 years later, but stuff like that where I was like really really into it. And then I always an artistic kid. I made music and was in choir and stuff, so I was always sort of doing that and storytelling too. And when I got into high school, there weren't a lot of like electives that I could take because my school was um, really, really challenging. So
uh,
I was like stuck in this place where I was a senior, and I was like, I mean, I can't take AP physics. I like basically flunked out of like physics, and it was like a lot of stuff where I was like art, double art, like all this,
double.
all this like really. I had to take a double study and it made me feel like, yeah, like I was not doing the right thing or whatever. So there was a film elective,
Oh, there
and
was?
yeah, so there was this film elective that I was able to take, and I did it mainly because my school was really lame. Like, I guess I should preface this by saying, like, my school was really hard Catholic school that was just like no fun ever. It was
I'm
just
surprised the Catholic school is a film elective.
and it
That's a
was
first.
it was within the last few years before I was able to take it that they had instated that they were really, there was a lot of pushback, like they didn't want more art programs, they didn't want to have there was no proper music class, it was just clubs after school.
Oh,
So the film class was a history of film, and I was like, whatever. But at the end of the year, you were able to make a film. And I was like, this is my fucking shot, because I was one of those high schoolers that always had a job. So I had a few $1,000s in my bank account, senior year. And I already had my Volvo, my 1980 Volvo that I bought. I'm driving around everything, whatever. And I bought like a little Sony camcorder with high 8 tapes, which is like a defunct technology now. And
yeah.
and I made a film based on a graphic novel, because I'm really into graphic novels in general. But
It's nice.
so I adapted that, and it was my first film. I was 16, 17 actually, last half of senior year as a young senior. And
Oh,
so I
so
was like a little baby, a little bebe. And yeah,
damn.
yeah, it was every year. It was awkward because every year, so it was like senior year, we showed up and I was 16. Everybody was like, whoa, you're 16. I was like, this happens every year, guys. Okay.
Yeah.
In the beginning of 7th grade, I was 11.
Yeah.
Believe me. So I was really young though still, and I made that. And I remember getting behind the camera. I was doing everything, and thinking like, this is it. But also at my high school, you had to go to college. There was no option. If you didn't go to college, they lied about it in the yearbook. Because it was an all girls school, so 40 kids, right? All girls and me. And I'm like I'm pre-transition. I'm like confused as fuck, and everything's going on around me.
uh
And there's like, in transition till I was 21.
oh,
So
really?
I'm like there with all these girls. I'm like having all these like, why do I feel bad every day? Um, just being feminized. And yeah, there were kids going to beauty school, and they would just say, "Oh, she went to Immaculate Conception." They lied about it. So the amount of pressure to go to college was immense.
Heavy. Ooh.
Yeah, it was really heavy. So I went into my guidance counselor. I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm calling out an audible right now. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go. I don't want to spend the money. My parents don't have any money, so I'm paying for this myself. So you
Oh.
can't make me do this. Like, I'm not going to do it. And my guidance counselor was like, yeah, you're ranked 12th in the class, which was out of 40. Like, they were like, you're one of the almost at the quarter mark. Like, you have to go to college. This is embarrassing. So I was like, fine, I'll go.
Fine.
I went to UMass for 4 months and I just dropped out, and that was probably the last time. It was an important part in my transition too, because it was probably the last time that I let somebody convince me to do something that I didn't really want to do and knew I didn't
Yeah.
want to do. So after I dropped out there, I just went back to work, and I put $26,000 in my bank account over 2 years, just living with my parents and working, So I just saved up that money, and I brought that to film school.
New
And
York,
I
right?
went, yeah, in New York. So then I went to New York Film Academy, and I was 20, turning 21 at that point. And I went through, it's a year-long program, so it's very intense. It's every day. And the first day I threw up because it was so long, and I was just running around between Union Square and Soho, between the two campuses, and there's orientations, and I was like, by the end of the day we were shooting, and I was like, this is 16 hours. They're like, yeah, what do you think an extra long film day is? So I went to school there, and right at the end of it, I felt like I couldn't stay in New York. It was just not the right mode for me right now. Something was happening with me. So I went back to Western Mass. My parents were in the process of moving out to the western part of the state because Boston is crazy expensive. So they were leaving after 25 years. It's just sad.
That's
It is sad. But I still get to go there. It's not that far.
oh yeah, that's a
But
good thing.
it was a thing where, it was a necessity thing. But my siblings all are living out there, and my sibling had started going through a coming out process. So that area is actually very queer friendly.
It
And so
is.
it's very, very big queer community just in this really small town called Northampton, and people in Vermont and stuff.
That's good.
So I was out there, and I'm like, what's going on with me? And I met the first trans person that I really ever met, who sat me down and was like, this is what trans stuff was. And I was like, that sounds familiar.
And relatable.
And really relatable. And just remember that I had just been through this huge art school experience. So the output of art that I had been doing was handcuffed. It was really like, I'm trying to emote something, but I'm also trying to put up a wall between myself
Yeah.
and the viewer. So my transition was like the last piece of the puzzle for my brain to start to be able to actually make film. I went to film school first, but I needed to take that step. So, and then after that, I just moved out to Los Angeles.
It's great to hear, because also like about like the film school and everything. I was my school also has like many like film electives, like that, like either like photography or like film class, like introduction to TV, that's what it's called,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
advanced. I'm taking advanced because I actually want to go to
yeah,
college for film. I want to pursue doing film, and I was thinking of either going to New York Film School like you went, or
yeah,
UCLA. It's either
yeah,
or. So that's
yeah.
where I'm
And
deciding, and that's
and
why I
like,
reached out to you, because I could relate so much to film and everything, and like your story is very interesting. And I
I'm
love it.
glad that you did, and I'm glad to hear that, because I can really honestly tell you that um, if you even at your age, like, you can get $140 gimbal for your phone, and you can
Yeah.
start making fucking films. And that is honestly,
I
if
know,
you
just for the
make
phone.
seriously, if you get some of your friends together and make film, like, because a gimbal basically will, like, you have enough probably on your phone, you probably have 4K video
I do.
capturing
Yeah,
on your
yeah, yeah.
phone, um or 8K, depending on what phone you have.
Nah, 4K,
And
4K. I'm
you
not
can
talking about
have
8K. No, no,
you
no.
can have you can have you know, your phone on a gimbal, which I have two motorized gimbals that are just handheld, and basically it just takes the motion out, you
Oh,
know,
that, yeah.
because you know when you shoot on a phone, like any hand movement you make, especially if you blow it up on the computer after, it'll
It
be a
could
bigger shake.
shake. Yeah,
Yeah,
nah.
so the whole thing with gimbals now, the technology is there, and you can use your 4K technology to mimic a sweeping shot that, you know, today they might still do on a track, you know, with a bigger
Yeah.
camera, but you can kind of mimic it and sort of start to see the elements that you put together to make a film. And honestly, it will put you head and shoulders above the rest if you have an application with a couple of films in it already for you know, UCLA. Like, they will fucking eat that shit up.
See, that's the good thing with the advanced TV that I'm taking. Like we do
Yeah.
films in that class, and like I have all like the data and everything. And once I have all that data, you put it right onto the applications, and the film schools and they'll fucking love that shit.
And that club, those kids in that club, that's your crew, you know,
Yeah.
because you have the best uh, opportunity right now to say, you know, we're not paying people, your children, so you know,
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah,
Everything's
that's
for free.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
fine.
that it gets awkward, you know, when you're saying you want to, you know, not pay people and you're like in your mid 20s, like that's not cute. But
Yeah, it's a
when
little
you're
awkward. But
when you're in the learning process, you know, it can be a really collaborative thing, and then one person gets to direct one week, and the next week you guys all change crew positions, and you can actually figure out what you really like to do, because some people are storytellers and some people are crew members, and either way you can make a lot of money doing it, which
I,
is another great
I've I
thing.
see. I've always liked filming, even since I was a little kid. Like I used to do like these little like YouTube videos when I was a kid because I wanted to be a
Yeah,
YouTuber. Like when I was like 7, 8 years
the
old,
dream.
and I was always the one with the phone, just going like this, holding it, recording,
Yes.
and I was like always like pretty steady for the most part on like the videos and everything
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And I always enjoy it, and I actually put like all concentration into like that film because I'd actually think that I'm like an actual director of like a big ass movie.
I mean, that is what, don't you think that that's like exactly what all those big directors did?
Yeah.
There's even, you know, when Steven Spielberg came into Hollywood for the first time, what he did, I think it's Paramount, he got himself onto the lot and he just walked into an empty office and set up.
Damn.
You're like, maybe I should go to college, you know,
Yeah.
to just do that. It's like now very famously known as like the Spielberg, you know, thing. So I think it's probably harder to accomplish now. But it's definitely, you know, something where conceptually that's still very alive. You know, there's a lot of like faking it till you make it.
Oh, that's the biggest, faking it till you make it.
You've got to do it. Well, because nobody
Got it.
comes complete, right?
Yeah, nobody.
So I think it's a great thing to do that in an artistic space, because you're striving to make something, and I do think that the harder it is to make, sometimes the better ideas, because you're like, how are we going to accomplish this? You know, and you get creative.
Yeah. And also like another thing, I've actually been to like what's called Los Angeles before, and I've been to like all like the filming studios and everything, like Sony, Paramount, and all
Oh,
those
perfect.
places. And I took a tour of where they film like TV shows and all that. And that just also very inspired me to do that. And I love LA as well. Love the weather and everything.
I mean, yes, that's that's great, and it's great
Yeah.
for shooting. I did a lot of shooting, obviously, in New York during school, and yeah, it was a nightmare. Like, just even getting the 15 passenger production van down Canal Street was a fucking
Oh,
nightmare.
hey, it's fucking brutal. It's
You're
like
just like, I hope that metallic sound isn't us.
if you go from one block to another, 3 hours. Holy fuck.
Yeah, yeah, and not having um like the New York Film Academy here in Los Angeles, it works off of the universe a lot. So it's a, I won't say I regret it because I have such great dear friends from NIFA,
Yeah.
but it is more studio inclined, and the program that I did in New York for them is a little bit more guerrilla filmmaking inclined. So while I'm totally comfortable like pulling up in a van, totally setting up and being like, everybody get ready to go if the cops come, I also don't employ that as much as I do my studio knowledge, which I got from actually just working after film school. You know, how to act on a, how to be proper on a set. Like they can just smell amateur on you and nobody likes it. They're just like, I need you to be super professional,
Yeah,
even though it's $210 a day for a production assistant. I don't care. But again, like that's something where if you can work it and you come out here for college, the best thing to do is to try to get a place to stay for the summer months so that you can production assist, so that you can get,
it's actually really good advice.
You could also go back to New York and do it too. Like you could live out of Jersey and then, you know, kind of be,
because I'm not that
presumably
from my house. It's to like New York. It's maybe 30 minutes to like maybe 40 minutes just by a car. So
for you, yeah, for you it might work then because you'd be then presumably living out of your parents' house and it might be a little bit easier. But something like that where you keep accruing those credits, because I was just on set with a bunch of college kids doing like PA stuff.
How did that go?
I mean that, you know, they're, whenever I work with like younger people in that role and I'm the most experienced, they're always trying to tell me to do something different that's like not a film school. Like this kid was trying to tell me to put ice in the cooler in a specific way, and I was like, it's not gonna close. And then like I just kind of left him there. In 10 minutes I come back and he's like,
he's trying to like fucking squash it.
What the fuck is wrong with you? I was like, that's not even the solution to that problem, hun. But I do find that a lot, that like just working with younger people, sometimes there can be like just a little bit of discrepancy and life knowledge and stuff. But for the most part, like set is about doing what needs to be done, and accomplishing the task of the day. Like that's why they just generally have general PAs, as opposed to, I'm not usually a department PA. I'm usually just like general, meaning, you know, the sky could fall. They'd be like, can you hold up the sky for the next 45 minutes? I know the blood is draining from your arms. So it can be a lot of stuff like that. But hey, if you can take it, like you're made for the industry, because even though some PAs will be there for 14 hours and as a director, maybe you'll be there for only 11 or something, you still have to be able to withstand all day on your feet. Sometimes you're out in the desert, literally, and there's this little pop tent that's supposed to keep everybody cool. Like it can be hell. Yeah. Or you're freezing at the top of a mountain, as I was a few months ago. Like just absolutely, like I couldn't think straight.
And you still gotta be professional, even though if you're sweating your ass off or freezing your ass off, you still gotta be professional no matter what.
I was first AD on that set too, so it was my responsibility to run the set. So everybody was like, oh God, like, you know, we have to push. And I just had to pee so fucking bad, and there was no bathroom. And the only thing that was really the solution was that we had to, when you had to go to the bathroom, you had to march out into the dark wilderness, no light at all, just pitch black. You walking out with your hands in front of you, because
what am I touching? What is this?
It's because imagine like the set was here and then all out in back of it was the woods. So the idea was that if you turned on the light, everybody would be able to look up and go, oh, so and so's pissing over there. So we were all around each other pissing, but we couldn't see each other because it was pitch black.
You didn't hear anything?
Black on, what do you could hear some, it's a noisy film set. I don't think I heard it.
That's why.
But my point being that, like, literally, like, I'm reenacting like Blair Witch to go to the bathroom, like on a certain set. Sometimes I was scared, you know. I'm like not fucking with fucking ghosts, but it can be that challenging. It can be that crazy, of a physical, and like
Yeah,
weather
physical aspect on your body
challenge.
or something, or your mental one.
Yeah, that's set. It's not, unless you want to go into acting, you're not going to be pampered at all.
Yeah, no, you're really not. Do you have anything else to add to like filmmaking and all this?
I would say, like I would give everybody advice to, no matter what age you are, to make the thing. That is the big differentiating factor. A lot of people come to this town and to New York City and say, oh yeah, I'm an aspiring filmmaker. The moment you make a film, you're
Yeah.
not aspiring anymore, you're doing it. And it really does take a lot of practice, and your first film is probably not going to be very
It's
good.
not gonna be the best, but practice makes
Yeah.
perfect though. Gotta keep on
so
doing
so you got to do that. And that's some advice that I got from some comedians that I saw on a panel, basically saying, like, yeah, the differentiating factor in a big pool like LA is to be, I'm so and so, and this is my distributed work. So that's why I made BombShell, and it's available on Amazon. If you just type in my name and BombShell, then you won't get Charlize Theron's feature
it.
film. But it didn't do much. I was nominated for an Oscar. I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
Nobody really knows about this
Yeah,
fucking
nobody.
film. I'm fine. It's about the women of Fox. Like, I'm okay. But yeah, I would say that to people, and the same for writing. Even if you're not inclined to film things, write scripts and
Yeah.
put them up for advice in competitions, so that you can get that feedback, get kind of blown back a little bit. It's good for you. You need that. So that's my advice. That's what happened to me, and I do think I'm in a better place for it.
Yeah, of course. So I usually do this thing on my podcast where I usually have my guests like share like a story. Like it could be any
Mhm.
story from their teenage years. So if you have any stories that you'd like to share, feel free to share it with my audience. I may.
Like literally any story.
Yeah, like
So it's
anything.
like any
Yeah, it
story.
could be anything.
Let's see. I mean, I guess
Like it could be anything. Anything that comes to your mind, you could share it.
literally any
Yeah,
story.
like anything.
Um
Yeah, like
a
shit.
prompt. A prompt. Um I mean, honestly, like the most interesting things that happened to me story wise are probably around filmmaking, were probably in school. I would say, I guess this is kind of funny. This is pre-transition. Let me, remind you guys, I'm pre-transition in the filmmaking school portion of my life. So we're all making thesis films at this point, or a quarter film or something. It was a big deal film.
Yeah.
And shooting in Jersey. And my friend Marco's film, it was really complicated. He had gotten his uncle, was a construction guy, so it was like this house that was like
Yeah.
semi being constructed upon. And so we're there. It's kind of unsafe. There's a gun thing, so we're gonna shoot off a gun, which now we know we needed to have way more supervision and permits, because that's, gun can fake ricochet on a empty. That's how the Bruce Lee's son died,
Oh.
filming The Crow. A small casing was in that, so it's a small piece of casing that went right through his body. So it's very dangerous, right? So all of this stuff is happening, and my friend says, "Okay, I need you to stop traffic, but also when but also when the camera comes around the bend, it's gonna be continuous shot, and I need you to ad lib in an Irish accent this gist and be a character." So I stopped. This was like, I want to say it was is Trenton maybe, right? I'm not sure. This is a remote,
If
like,
it's the capital, yes, it's
yeah,
Trenton.
if it was there, I forget. Oh, and you know what? It was Newark.
Newark, I love that
Newark, right?
place. I
Yeah.
love that.
So I like those little train stops they have. Actually, I think it's really cute.
I love Newark. Oh, I
But
fucking love the
so
place.
Newark, I think that's Whitney Houston's hometown. But Newark, Pride, whatever. You don't want to be stopping traffic there at 3 a.m.
No, you don't.
It was like guys that had like tinted windows and like super loud music on, and I'm like the car's like coming down, and I was like literally like, no, stop, okay, and we're filming. No, nothing is surrounding me. I'm just like, we're filming. I'm
Oh,
stopping you with my hand. A couple people went around me, of course. And then the car came up and I did my bit and I was doing an Irish accent and doing like this weird thing about being panicked. And it was like he gave me parameters to be like, we're panicked about this guy. He's gone. You're trying to find him.
yeah.
And then the way that shoot ended, because Marco was crazy. Like he was just one of those guys that he was wanting to be Spielberg, but we had such limited time that we would run over. So
Yeah.
it was a 24-hour shoot. It's the only one. The next longest one I've been on was 16 and a half hours, I think, but
That's a while.
24 hours is really crazy. And I don't think you would ever find that professionally. The 16-hour one was HBO, but
At least it's for HBO, honestly.
Sure. We were happy to do it, but this one was like my friend was like holding us hostage, and so we got out to the car in the morning to load up, and I had this is funnier pre-transition, but it's still funny to me. I had like a smudge from one of the pieces of equipment. I've been away for 24 hours working on film, man. Okay. And so I had a smudge that went all the way across here that looked like a fake mustache. And nobody would tell me about it. Everybody was like, my friends, these are my friends, and they were like, what the fuck? Everybody's kind of laughing. I was like, what the hell? Yeah. I was like, why is everybody being weird with me? And so we're on our way home. I didn't find out about that till I got back to my apartment. But on the way home, Marco was driving and he fell asleep at the wheel. So that's how it ended. And I was in shotgun. So I was like, bam, bam, like
slapping the shit out.
I was hitting him so hard, but he was one of those like kind of like 5 o'clock shadow eternally, like kind of big guy.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, like really like ready to fall asleep at any fucking moment. And so I was hitting the fucking shit out of him, and he eventually woke up, and we were like, you have to get out of the car. I drove the rest of the way and everything, but yeah, I guess that's like one of the most harrowing filmmaking stories that I have, because we've been talking about filmmaking. Like,
I mean, that's a good topic to tell a story to my audience about filmmaking. That's always good.
Yeah, wrap a film after 16 hours. That's the advice that goes with that.
So that's basically gonna wrap up this interview. Like I said, this is a really pleasure time of having you on this podcast. I had a really fun conversation with you.
Thank you so much. And if anybody wants to follow at Heath and Henshaw, at BombShell the series, and at Spookable_show, those are all my projects. All my projects and all my
any social media you got?
Yeah, that's my Heath and Henshaw is the production company. That is mine. It's basically a vanity production company. So that's where you can find me as a filmmaker. And then the Spookable one and the BombShell one are both the individual shows where you can find a bunch of content that I've made.
Sounds good. Please, you guys heard him. Please go show some support to him. And also, this is going to wrap up this interview. Go please stream this episode on any podcast and platforms. And also, if you guys are watching on YouTube, 80% of you guys are not subscribed. So please click the subscribe button and also like this video and turn on post notifications. And yeah, that's it for this episode.
Yeah, 80%. What the hell? Let's go.
Click subscribe, pussies.
All right. I'll see you later, man. Thank you so much.
Have a nice day.